Hello everyone and welcome to an exciting edition of BTL. I'm Hugo Ribatika, in for James Ilsley, who's getting some much needed R&R. With me on the show today is Bandile Lukele. Bandile, great to have you. Incredible images that we're seeing now from that Australian victory in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely amazing to see. Obviously, 12,000 fans gathered at the Newland Stadium, all really just cheering for the Proteas, hoping that they can actually win their first, of course, World Cup. It is the first time that any Protea team has actually reached the final, so it's quite amazing to see. But of course, Australia proving just a little bit too strong for the side.
Yeah, South Africa falling short by 19 runs. But did they actually have a chance? I mean, if you think about it, Australia have made it to 7 finals, won 6 of those, and 3 back-to-back.
Yeah, that's 7 World Cup finals, actually 14 World Cup finals in all competitions. They did not, unfortunately, have a chance. The spirit was definitely there, not only from them, but the fans as well, as I've mentioned. But of course, Australia are the dominant side in terms of World Cups. They've won 2010 T20 World Cup, 2012, 2014, 2018, 2020, and 2023. They also have an ODI World Cup as well back in 2022, of course, being the only nation to lift 2 World Cups in 12 months. I think that's absolutely amazing. But of course, we have to give a big shout out to Meg Lanning, the captain of the side, who's absolutely done phenomenally for the side. Yeah.
Away from the Australians for a little bit, not to take away from that incredible performance. Let's focus a little bit on South Africa. You know, I mean, as you say, it's the first time a South African cricket side has made it to the finals.
Yeah.
So this by no means was a massive achievement, overcoming the likes of England in that semi-final, in the build-up to this. What are some of the key learnings that South Africa would have drawn from this?
I think there's quite a lot that's happening, and really what this really symbolizes and achieves for the Proteas, but not just the Proteas, but really women's sport in South Africa and the globe. I think the Proteas, of course, now they're entering a whole new marketability realm by achieving this, and of course a huge jump in the audience for the Proteas at this moment. I think that will definitely see, you know, finances in terms of investments really just jumping up, and the development as well for women's cricket. I think it's absolutely amazing to see. Finally, women's sport will be taken seriously as it should have been from the beginning.
And I suppose what's incredible when you talk about being taken seriously is that when South Africa made it to the final, tickets sold.
Yeah, like hotcakes.
Absolutely, you know, like hot cross buns.
Yeah.
And I think that for me was the first indication that South Africa then stopped and said, hey, you know what? This Proteas side that we have is actually a team worth supporting. Yeah,
no, definitely 100%. And, you know, the experience that they got in this World Cup final, I think is absolutely amazing. Now it's literally just #road to Bangladesh 2024, where we'll hopefully see them making the final and really just hoping that they lift that trophy this time around. So
when you look at a team like Australia, who are a phenomenal cricketing side, in fact, they're a phenomenal sporting nation across many formats, as we are certainly when it comes to rugby and the cricket.
Yeah.
What would the Proteas pick up from the performance of the Australians looking forward to 2024? You know, when you talk about preparation, it's a couple of years. In fact, 2024 is literally round the corner. When we talk about preparation, we talk about development. What are some of those conversations do you think are going on in the Proteas change room?
I think at this moment it's probably just a matter of, you know, I'm not necessarily going to say better leadership, but I think there is something that they can learn from Meg Lanning, definitely. I mean, she's literally been leading the side. 2014 T20 World Cup, she was leading the side. 2018, 2020, and 2023 as well. She's been doing absolutely phenomenal. And of course, the ODI in 2022. I think there's a lot to learn, not only from her, but of course, Beth Mooney as well. Absolutely amazing batsman right there. I think she's been doing absolutely phenomenal. Of course, she is leading in terms of the stats of the T20 World Cup finals, scoring 298 runs in 6 innings, which is absolutely amazing. I think those are sort of the areas that South Africa can actually learn from. Because if you actually watch the match, where they were lacking was in fact in the batting department as opposed to the bowling. I think the bowling did quite a stellar job. So yeah, those are the conversations that we're having in terms of where can we improve, where can we do better, and how can we literally make sure that the next time we go up against the likes of Australia, we can actually pull through and win.
Now, you're a sports analyst across many, many formats of the sport. The big stage, first time at a World Cup, making it to the finals. In fact, for all these South African players, this was the first time that they were making it to this grand stage. Do you get a sense that maybe the big stage might have scared a few of them, that the nerves were contributed to that 19-run difference? I mean, 19 runs is not a lot when you compare to the pedigree of Australia, who have won this trophy a record 6 times, 3 times in succession, and against what probably is fair to say were the minnows going into this, the underdogs, who are South Africa, and they're making it and only losing by 19 runs.
Yeah, definitely. I think mentality really had a big play in this one. Of course, not having been in a final ever before, both for the men's and the women's team. So obviously Australia really just having that a little bit of an advantage there because they've been here countless times before. I mean, if you look at their stats as well, Australia are the side that's dominating. 21 ICC trophies all across, which is absolutely amazing. And they have beaten the Proteas 7 times, as we've mentioned, in the T20 World Cup as well. So obviously that's also playing a big part in terms of the Proteas side not really being able to overcome that. But hey, I mean, what I'm really glad of is that the numbers were there, the audience was there cheering the team on, and even with the loss, I think everybody's proud of this team.
Now, what we also need to be proud of, outside of the fact that the ladies team made it to the finals, is when you juxtapose the two sides, if you will, the Proteas women and the Proteas men, right? The women have been in the business only a few years, but let's talk about those structures and the importance of the absence of politics and meddling, if you will, in the sport, and what is done from cricket. Do you feel that this could be a factor? Could this be the difference between the performance of the women's team going all the way to the finals for the very first time and the men who are proving to be perennial mishits, if you will, when it comes to these major competitions? Yeah,
I mean, in terms of the Proteas, you know, they've been labeled chokers for the longest of times. And I think in this case, for the women's team, really, it was all about the drive and the passion to really go through to the final, really just winning everything as much as they can. In terms of politics, yes, as we know, with the Proteas, there's a lot of politics, some even labeling it as racism as well here and there. There is a lot of discrimination happening there. And I think those are the types of things that really pull the team backwards in terms of progressing as further as they can. But I think if the Proteas can actually overcome such things, then definitely we can progress a lot more further. Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about Australia, we've talked a lot about South Africa, but there were some other key performances by some of the other sides that certainly did well in the event. Obviously, New Zealand, England, top pedigree sides, but not quite making it beyond those semi-finals.
Yeah, not quite making it there. Of course, now in this T20 World Cup, it was quite phenomenal to see the likes of South Africa really pushing forward and just making sure that they overcome all the adversities that they're actually facing. And of course, going up against a side like Australia in a final is really something nothing short of amazing, because they are the queens of the T20 World Cup, and it's quite amazing to see. Yes, the likes of New Zealand did fall short, India, and as you've mentioned, these are top teams, but of course the Proteas, the ladies, were not here to play. Yeah.
Vanilla, appreciate that conversation. So we've been discussing that magnificent performance by Australia, winning the ICC T20 Women's World Cup for third time in a row. When we come back, we take a look at what's happening in Egypt, where the AFCON Under-20 is happening. Now, remember to like, watch and subscribe to us on all social media platforms, and it's at BTL_Sports Connect. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, 6-time ICC Women's T20 World Cup winners, Australia!
Thank you for staying with BTL. I'm Hugo Ribatika. With me in the studio is Bandile Lukele. And we were talking cricket. Now we go to the Under-20 AFCON, which is happening at the moment in Egypt. And the front runners there are Senegal. Yeah. But before we touch on Senegal, let's talk about certainly some of the previous winners, where they are in this tournament. And we have to talk about Egypt, who are the hosts, but with a solitary point, not making it to the quarterfinal stages.
Yeah, absolutely shocking stuff there. Of course, they were actually beaten 4-0 by the Senegalese side, who are, in fact, the strongest side in this current CAF Under-20 tournament. But, of course, I think the manager himself, Malik Daf, has actually quite taken a few notes from Cissé's book and really applied them quite well.
I'd like to think he might have taken a little bit more than a few notes.
Maybe so, because what they're currently doing is absolutely amazing. I mean, 8 goals so far, 0 goals conceded. Of course, they are actually the highest scoring team in this tournament and the least conceding team at the moment.
Are we surprised by Senegal's performance? Will we take a look at what the senior Lions of Teranga team were able to do in taking the AFCON 2022?
Not really. I think, as I just mentioned shortly, I think the philosophy is very similar across the board, from the first team, of course, this first national team, to the young sides like the Under-20. So it's absolutely amazing to see that, of course, the big team, the A team, can actually then pick and choose from the younger team that is doing absolutely amazing well, and obviously at this point can actually go on to win it. Yeah.
So Ghana, Mali, and Zambia, previous winners, nowhere to be seen for all intents and purposes in this tournament. Is that a surprising move? Do we expect a new set of players or new winners at each event?
Yeah, I mean, there's always new youngsters ready to pounce, ready to play with new hunger, of course, and passion. I mean, Zambia, of course, the 2017 winners of the Under-20 AFCON, beaten at this point, really struggling. The last game they were beaten by Gambia, who's absolutely doing quite well, if I may say. So, I mean, it's always interesting to see new talent really just coming out and just gracing the football field and giving us all this entertainment.
So a few of the quarterfinals have been already confirmed. We're going to take a look at that on the screen right now. And I'd like you to walk us through who you think is likely to make it from those quarters right down to the semis, and obviously the eventual winners.
Yeah, well, you have Senegal, of course. They're going to be playing up against whoever gets placed in either Group C or Group B, third place. That's Senegal. They're going to be playing up against that. I think Senegal is definitely going to go all the way there. You have Uganda versus Nigeria confirmed as well. You have Gambia versus South Sudan as well, already confirmed. And then you have Congo versus the Group C second place. I think that's another interesting game that will, of course, we'll have to wait and see who exactly they're going to play against. But I think Congo is looking quite decent this time around. But nonetheless, I think Senegal is literally the team to win it. They beat Egypt. They knocked out Egypt. They were actually in the group of death against the likes of Nigeria as well, who they beat. Yeah, so it's absolutely interesting to see.
So Uganda had a great performance. I mean, they're sitting on 5 points, as are Congo, which you've just alluded to. Again, you've got that situation. We've got a team like Central African Republic, certainly seemingly out of their depth with just that solitary point from their 3 matches.
Yeah, I mean, listen, 3 games, 1 draw and 2 losses. Really not a side that's in this competition at this current point. And as a result, of course, they are literally bowing out.
So last tournament, Central African Republic making it to the quarterfinals. Now, just the solitary point, as I indicated.
Yeah.
What would have gone wrong between the last tournament, which was 2 years ago, and this event?
Well, managers do tend to overthink and overanalyze certain situations. So it might be a case of really just new tactics that are trying to be implemented in this game. And as a result, of course, it's literally just not working. We've seen this happen countless times, really. Time and time again, a team trying to evolve, and what actually happens is that they take a step behind and they fall.
All right, let's take a look at Group C, which is the final of the 3 groups that we've been looking at. Again, some great performances that we've got there.
Yeah.
Gambia, obviously winning those 2 matches.
yeah, Gambia, of course, being the strong team in this group, of course, they are playing against South Sudan, and I actually have no doubt that I think they will win that one. So obviously in this one, they're still leading as well in terms of goals in the group. 3 goals at the moment. Yeah, it's absolutely great to see. They still have, of course, a game to play as well, but it's great to see them winning this one easily through to the quarters.
Now, you've got players like Patson Daka, who's made it internationally, as have another number of Zambian players. So you would expect that Zambia has some pedigree, but this tournament doesn't seem to reflect that.
Yeah, and these are the 2017 champions that we're talking about, and yet not much to show for it in this one. Of course, they are literally out of this AFCON tournament. So, I mean, what really can you say at this point? Zambia not really doing the things that they're supposed to be doing at this point. They are struggling, but once again, it could be just a tactical thing from the coach, trying out new sort of formations, new tactics in the team, and literally it's just bouncing back and failing.
So AFCON under-20 currently happening in Egypt, with Senegal seemingly the front runners. A lot more to look forward to on the show when we come back. In fact, we're talking E-Prix, which happened for the very first time in Cape Town. Don't go away. Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching BTL, available to you on all social media platforms at BTL_Sports Connect. With me in the studio is our top analyst, Bandile Lukele, and we are talking all things sport, with a particular focus at the moment on Formula One. In fact, which will pave way to our conversation around the E-Prix, which just happened in Cape Town this past weekend. Bandile, let's talk about the founding of Formula One before we juxtapose that against E-Prix.
Yeah, Formula One, of course, founded quite a long time ago. I believe it was back in the 1950s. As you can see, they actually launched in the 1950s. Of course, they are utilizing combustion engines, and they have been for quite a long time. I mean, in a typical year, you're looking at about 24 races, 10 teams within that year. Of course, one pit stop is mandatory, but of course, that can increase depending on the number, or rather the team's strategy going forward. Of course, they do like to utilize different sets of tires throughout the week. And we're looking at top speeds at around 360 kilometers an hour, which these cars can absolutely achieve in literally under a minute. And of course, they do rather have a tire sponsor in Pirelli, who are always pushing the boundaries in terms of developing new tire technology that will literally make the cars grip better and always really just run faster.
So that's Formula One, established in the 1950, and obviously a few years ago gave birth to E-Prix.
Yeah, and it did. Of course, the E-Prix, a whole totally different ball game. The cars are slightly smaller. It's electric engines. The top speed is about 320 kilometers. And of course, they are racing on street circuits only, which is always very, very incredible and interesting to see, because then it's always a new challenge, literally with each and every race. But yes, 16 races throughout the year. Of course, we just recently have the Cape Town race that happened. Everybody really excited about it, and I think it went quite well.
Yeah, it certainly did for the first race in Cape Town. But we've looked at Formula One, we've looked at E-Prix. Are there any similarities? What are the big comparisons, if you will, or the big differences between the two races?
Well, yes, there are similarities. Of course, both sports, rather, are, of course, single-seater car racing. Those are the types of similarities that we're looking at. But in terms of course, a lot of other things. So both series, of course, consist of a set of rules that all participants' cars must follow. Of course, points are awarded to the top 10 drivers using the standard FIA system, of course, that we all know and probably not all love. And then points as well determined the world champion and constructors world title as well. And drivers are dependent on the vehicle they are given by the team, of course.
So in a moment, we're going to take a look at the actual race and what transpired in Cape Town. But I suppose the first part of the conversation that I'd like us to take a look at is the fact that they race on a street circuit. Now, when you come to when you come to Formula One, I mean, you look the likes of Monaco, the likes of Singapore, to name but a few that are street races. What are some of the challenges of a street race versus a regular race where you are on a track? And obviously the benefits to those of us that are watching from the sidelines.
Well, tracks, they rarely change. They rarely change. It's literally the same route year in, year out. Whereas with street circuits, in as much as, it is entertaining to see these cars literally speeding 320 kilometers on the street, public road, literally, it is quite difficult for them to actually maneuver a little bit around the track, because unpredictability is also a thing, of course. Yes, they do test these cars. They do have those testing rounds just around the track, but at the end of the day, this is a track that they are not familiar with. As you've seen, of course, in this E-Prix that currently happened, there were a few crashes that happened. And as a result, it is, of course, because of these street circuits that they're not too familiar with. As you can see there, this is probably one of the crashes right there. Listen, these are the types of things that we really do expect when it comes to street circuits. Yeah.
So even at 320, in fact, at 320 kilometers an hour, it's still an extremely dangerous sport, number one. And number two, this is a street circuit. You're not entirely familiar with some of the turns. If it's a regular circuit, you've probably driven it a couple of times, are more familiar with it. You don't have the luxury of Formula One, where you've got practice 1, P2, in fact, P3 in many instances.
Yeah. That's exactly the case. And this is why we always see these massive crashes absolutely happening in the E-Prix. But of course, the E-Prix does make for a little bit slightly more entertaining races, of course, in the fact that it's always unpredictable. You never really know what's going to happen. Yes, it is slightly more dangerous because their cars are not combustion engines, as we've mentioned. They are flying at similar speeds. However, there's still a big part of the electricity that is literally running throughout the whole car. And of course, that can literally, anything can happen at that point.
Mandela, I'd imagine after the successful E-Prix in Cape Town this past weekend, that there will be more calls to have more races, not only in Cape Town, but in the rest of the continent.
Yeah, hopefully. Of course, the next race is unfortunately in Brazil. It is going to be entertaining, but then there is literally no other race happening in Africa. But I think this was a very good start to the E-Prix coming into the African continent. And of course, we need it back in South Africa, in as much as the likes of Kenya or Congo also do want to see it in their hometown. But I think they'll definitely be coming back to South Africa very soon.
So do you reckon that the Brazilian E-Prix will draw a lot of comparison to Cape Town? Obviously, Cape Town, first time. What are the comparisons that are likely to be drawn between the two races?
Well, I think, if any, I think Cape Town will be, of course, the city that does actually come out on top. I don't think that Brazil can actually host what Cape Town has recently hosted. It was absolutely phenomenal to see the entire city of Cape Town, of course, literally coming to life in these sporting events that were actually happening at the same time, on the same weekend, and everything literally just going smoothly. We saw in excess of about 25,000 spectators coming on the streets, literally to watch and really just cheer on the E-Prix and embracing it, really.
Well, we cannot complete the show without talking about Antonio Felix da Costa, who's the man who won that inaugural E-Prix in South Africa, on South Africa's shores and Cape Town, obviously. But that performance has to be talked about. 11th position all the way to winner.
Yeah. Nobody really expected it. I think if anybody was expected to win was, of course, Jean-Eric. I think he was looking very quick. And actually, he did actually get the fastest lap throughout the race. Now, unfortunately, Antonio da Costa absolutely driving like madness there, showing some aggression towards the end of the race and actually just clinching that win away from Jean-Eric. It was absolutely amazing to see.
Now, we do know that Mahindra is one of those teams whose 4 cars were withdrawn from the race. So obviously, it cut down the numbers of those that participate in the event. But let's talk about some of the other performers when we take a look at that grid at the final of the race. What was it looking like?
Well, the grid was quite interesting. Of course, you have Da Costa there leading the grid. And then, of course, Jean-Eric as well coming behind him. Nick Cassidy as well. I think he did quite well. Now, these are, of course, the results as per this race. But in terms of the whole entire E-Prix, the season, I mean, I can just give you a quick top 5. You still have Pascal at number 1 with 80 points. Of course, he collected 0 points while in South Africa. And then you have Jake Dennis at number 2 at 62 points. And then you have Jean-Eric, of course, at 50 points. And then Da Costa, who just actually won the Cape Town series at 46 points, and then Nick Cassidy coming behind him at 43 points. Now, those are just the entire season's stats in terms of standings for the drivers, but it's quite amazing to see there Antonio Da Costa for the Porsche side literally doing wonders, achieving a 1.09.810.
I certainly want to keep that graphic on the screen at the moment and just, you know, juxtapose the performance of the constructors, if you will. I mean, you've got Porsche, you've got, I suppose, McLaren is what is common to both the Formula One and what we've got in the E-Prix. Now, what does that say about technology and certainly the strengths that combustion engine, you know, as it started out in Formula One versus the electric engines? Does it offer a new dominance, if you will, where we're finding that the companies that are running the show, if you will, in Formula One are not the same ones that are doing the same in the E-Prix?
Yeah, I think it just offers a whole new set of possibilities, you know, for the vehicle culture, the racing culture. It is great to see, of course, the likes of Formula E literally pushing the boundaries in terms of electronically driven vehicles, pushing the boundaries. And we know that the F1 is also planning to really just adapt a little bit into cleaner, more sustainable fuels in about 2026, I believe. So they will be now doing literally a hybrid. Yes, these cars that we currently have are already hybrids in the F1, but in 2026, the rules will be a lot more stricter, meaning that companies like McLaren, like Mercedes, literally now need to get the best of the best technology to utilize in the F1, and that's exactly what the E-Prix is all about.
Well, these shows are about the fans, you know, coming in their thousands and hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Do you envision a situation where E-Prix's numbers are comparable to that of Formula One?
Definitely. Of course, with the whole entire world literally moving towards electrifying vehicles, I think at some point we will be seeing really that gap, or rather that audience from the F1 literally coming into the E-Prix. It's going to be very interesting to see. However, personally, I am a big fan of combustion engines, and I absolutely cannot forget about it. No.
Well, what I can't forget, and certainly what I look forward to is the next show. Bandile Lukile, appreciate your time on the show today as always, and thanks for the incredible insights.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've been watching BTL. Great having you on the show. I'm Hugo Rebetika. Look forward to the pleasure of your company on the next show. And remember, you can watch, follow, and subscribe to all our channels across all social media at BTL_Sports Connect. I'm Hugo Rebetika. Goodbye for now.